I don't want all of a sudden tourism to suffer in Los Angeles because what they see on television, because the media sometimes shows it as if the whole Los Angeles is a big war zone, which is not really the case.
No, none of Los Angeles is a war
But
zone.
this wouldn't happen. I think that what you're referring to is, of course, the protests that are going on
everything
in LA.
that's going on.
I totally agree with you, by the way, Jimmy, because they make it out to like it is a war zone, the whole Los Angeles.
What do you mean by
that? For decades, almost 4 decades, we have had a problem where they talked about immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform.
It started like any other late-night show. A few jokes, a celebrity guest, some banter, and a live audience ready to laugh. But what unfolded on Jimmy Kimmel's stage that night was not just entertainment. It was an ambush, a comedic takedown, a calculated cinematic demolition of Donald Trump Jr., and by extension, his father, engineered with precision and delivered with a smirk.
And so what they do is they just keep pointing the finger at each other, and then they're surprised if all of a sudden we are using our middle finger on them, right? But I mean, it's all bogus, because I think that we can do better than that. But the Democrats and the Republicans, both of the parties, have no interest in solving this problem because they use that to raise money. And I talk about Democrats and Republicans, even though I'm a Republican, I tell you, it is sometimes disappointing. And then I think even just when you look at the symbols of the party, think about that. I mean, the Democrats, donkey, Republicans.
But what no one expected was who walked on stage: Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator himself, not as a robot, but as a man with receipts, grudges, and a hunger to tell the truth. What followed was a night Trump will never forget, and one that had him seething in private while his son squirmed in public. Jimmy Kimmel, no stranger to controversy, had already been needling the Trumps for years. But this was different. This time, he didn't just joke, he exposed. The studio lights dimmed, and a reel played behind him. It was a montage of Donald Trump Jr.'s recent media appearances, him ranting about liberal Hollywood, slamming immigrants, and promoting bizarre conspiracy theories, including claims that Joe Biden had been replaced by a body double. The clips grew more absurd with each cut, and then the footage stopped. Jimmy stood silently. Then he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the next president of the Flat Earth Society." The crowd erupted. But what came next was more brutal than any monologue punchline. "But wait," Kimmel said. "I think we need someone who's dealt with this family before. Someone who's not afraid of a little chaos. Someone who knows how to handle unstable egos." The stage lights turned blood red. The crowd gasped, and Arnold Schwarzenegger walked out to the Terminator theme. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He walked straight to the desk like he was there to terminate more than just ratings. The audience exploded in applause. Trump Jr., watching backstage, because he had been invited under the impression he'd be part of a friendly panel, looked like he'd seen a ghost. And maybe he had. Arnold wasted no time. "You know," he began, "I've seen a lot of weak men try to act strong, but when Don Jr. opens his mouth, it's like watching a parody of his father, the cheap version, the bargain bin Trump." The crowd gasped, then roared. Kimmel was trying to hold back laughter. Don Jr. reportedly tried to storm off, but producers told him it would look worse if he bailed. So he stayed, off camera, boiling. Arnold wasn't done. "I remember when your father said I was a disaster as host of The Apprentice," he said, looking straight into the camera. "But I didn't cry on Twitter about it. I moved on. I didn't need daddy's money or lies. I made my career with muscle, discipline, and truth. You make yours with memes and whining." The studio was shaking from the applause. Then Kimmel pulled out a folder. "We actually did some digging," he said, "and it turns out Don Jr. has some interesting business practices." He began reading from documents his team had uncovered: shell companies, questionable land deals in Texas, and a bizarre crypto partnership that collapsed overnight, leaving thousands of investors empty-handed. It wasn't illegal, but it was embarrassing. And with every detail Kimmel read aloud, Don Jr.'s credibility withered. That's when Arnold delivered the final blow. "I came to this country with nothing," he said. "I made it. I love America. But when I see people like Don Jr. pretend to be patriots while dividing the country for clicks and power, I say, enough. You are not your father. and that's not a compliment. That line sent the room into chaos. People stood, cheered, laughed. Even the band joined in with a Terminator riff. By the time Don Jr. was finally brought out for his segment, the energy had completely turned. The applause was polite. He tried to smile, tried to brush it off with awkward jokes, but he looked visibly shaken. His voice cracked. He tried to throw shade at Arnold, calling him a washed-up actor, but the comeback was instant. Better a washed-up actor than a never-was politician, Arnold fired back, without missing a beat. The clip went viral before the show had even finished airing on the West Coast. Within hours, it was trending across platforms. Headlines screamed variations of "Schwarzenegger destroys Don Jr. on live TV." Memes exploded. Late-night hosts from other networks replayed the moment with glee. Even conservative pundits struggled to defend the younger Trump. Some called it a setup. Others blamed Kimmel for stooping too low, but most could only acknowledge what everyone saw. Don Jr. walked into a trap and got humiliated. Back in Mar-a-Lago, Trump Sr. reportedly erupted. Insiders say he threw a plate of chicken tenders against the wall. "They're out to get us," he allegedly shouted. "They planned it. Arnold was jealous of me from day one." But no one paid attention. Even Fox News avoided airing the clip in full, perhaps sensing the damage control wasn't worth the effort. Meanwhile, Schwarzenegger went on to post a video the next day explaining why he did it. "This country deserves better," he said. "We need truth, not tantrums. Accountability, not nepotism." That video was shared by millions, including veterans, independents, and even a few former Trump voters. It was more than a viral moment. It was a cultural shift. Don Jr. tried to retaliate with a Twitter rant, posting grainy memes of Arnold from his bodybuilding days and calling Kimmel Hollywood garbage, but the damage was done. The clip of him being publicly wrecked played on every screen, every feed, every podcast. Even comedians who normally stayed out of politics joined in. It became a symbol, a moment where the emperor's son had no clothes. And Trump Sr., he went silent for a full 48 hours. A record. When he finally re-emerged, it was on Truth Social, blaming deep-state late-night comedians, calling Arnold a low IQ robot, and hinting at launching his own TV network to fight back. But it all sounded desperate, hollow, almost sad. The irony? Arnold didn't even come for politics. He came to defend the idea of truth, of strength, of character. And when stacked against the performative bluster of the Trump dynasty, it wasn't even a fair fight. In the end, it was just another night on late-night television. But for the Trump family, it was a brutal reminder: charisma without character is nothing. The stage may be bright, but the spotlight doesn't lie. And on that night, in front of millions, Arnold and Jimmy didn't just make people laugh. They made history. They cracked the armor of a legacy built on illusion. And for once, America saw it happen in real time.